Tell me about that butt cap, John.
Well, this is I'll tell you about the gun. It's it's known as a Type G trade gun. It was a trade gun that was made by the English for trade to the Indians. Indians actually had a little bit of input into the design of these things. You know, the English wanted to trade them these heavy military muskets, and they wanted something real light.
All these are used.
And this design resulted from it, and it's called a Type G. It's just labeled that by archaeologists who found the hardware at Indian sites, the serpent side plate, this particular type of strap brass trigger guards, and this type of butt plate, and this kind of shields type discussion. And at first these were unassociated. Nobody knew, you know, how they went together. And then they found some in Indian graves that were associated, and they came up with a concept gun that they labeled Type G. And once that was recognized, they started looking at existing collections, and they found you know, half a dozen or a dozen of these that still exist. There's not many. You know, in my research, I probably ran across 10 or 12 originals. So Indians literally used them up, and you know, you mostly just find them in pieces in the ground.
So those are not screwed on?
No, and these are nailed on. To make these things light and cheap, the English cut a lot of corners. They nailed the butt plates on.
So they nailed around the border and then up here.
Yeah, and the serpent side plate kind of, this is actually a rendition of what the English call St. George's dragon. It goes back to knights in armor and dragons, and it's kind of an idealized version of that, but this served a purpose. The Indians had serpents in their religion and ceremonies, and they were sort of superstitious about serpents. And this one, they liked this serpent design because the head is facing forward, facing toward your enemy. And this gun dates from about 1700 to about 1760, and when about 1760, it evolves into what they call the Northwest gun, and it's kind of a shorter version of this, but they changed the side plate and they face the serpent head back towards this way, so it was facing toward the shooter. And the Indians, it sort of freaked them out sometimes. So you sometimes find those later side plates where the Indians have removed them from the gun and taken an axe and cut the head off those things. You know,
this is a smooth bore?
This is smooth bore, 20 gauge, 62 caliber, which was of a little bit greater utility because you didn't have to have a particular size of shot to put in there. You could shoot a 62 caliber ball, but you could also put all different sizes of shot. It basically acted like a shotgun.
Yeah.
And,
well, it sure is a fine job.
Thank you, thank you. This one is a much later gun. It's about a century later than this one. This would be 1810, 1820, and it would be, this is a rifle. This is a smaller bore. This is a 40 caliber rifle, which is, as you get later in time, the calibers get smaller and smaller because a lot of big game is gone. You know, you're not needing a huge caliber to hunt big game. You know, mostly just deer and smaller game. And this is a fancy, what would have been a pretty fancy model. It's got cheek piece carving and a hunter's star, and some silver inlay in the barrel, and then a patch box, which, you know, could have been used to carry patches or accessories or some kind. But
see the sights on that thing.
This is a
This is a one of John's ideas. He dovetailed a piece of brass, and he put the actual sight on the brass. I thought that was pretty interesting. It gives it a lot of color and interesting texture. Of course, there's his mark. It's upside down from the camera, but it's on the front side. I held that up, and I mean the sight is just perfect for when you throw it up. You're looking right down that sight. It's very fine, very light, balanced firearm. And
both of these will function if you put flints in them.
he's got a safety wooden flint, as it were.
Something simple.
Yeah, you can't dry fire them without something in there, or it'll bend the cock, or it can. But this is I bought the barrel, and I bought the lock, and I bought the trigger guard and the butt plate. Made the
Now this wood is curly maple.
yes.
And what was it on this smooth board?
That's just a plain maple stock. Now, typically that would have been beech. Beech was the preferred wood because it was cheap, and those trade guns are often painted different colors. I think red, blue, and yellow. They know they were painted in those colors, and I've heard that the reason they were painted was because. If someone had one and they were off in the distance, you could tell that they were Indian by the color of their gun. So you knew you were approaching Indians if you saw somebody with a blue gun or a red gun or a yellow gun. But
They both look really fine. Thanks for showing us.
thank you.